Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from the Philadelphia law offices of Obermeyer. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Jeff Mack, Mark Knight, Frank, Peter Stelling, Merrill Lynch, Drew Hanlon, Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, David DeStefano, Exude, Christine Miles, Equipped, and Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight, Frank. Jeffrey, can you give us a rundown on who we have on the air today?
Sure, Herb. We have Deanne D'Amelio as the president of Gwynedd Mercy University, Lisa Robinson, CEO and founder of My Independence at Home, John Jacobs is the chairman and CEO of a local biopharmaceutical company, Harmony Biosciences, and Mo Rushdy, managing partner, RiverWards Group.
Let's get to know our first guest, Deanne D'Amelio, president of Gwynedd Mercy University. What is Gwynedd Mercy University?
Gwynedd Mercy University is a Catholic university in Gwynedd Valley, sponsored by the Sisters of Mercy.
How large or how small is this organization?
So we have about 2,800 students, about 2,000 undergraduates, the rest graduate mostly online.
Wow. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have one older brother.
And how young were you when you were creating and organizing all the other kids?
I was probably about 8 years old.
What were you doing?
I kind of gathered some kids up in the neighborhood, and we formed a singing, performing group called the Providence Drive 5.
Tell us a little bit about that group and what happened.
So I like to listen to music in those days, and I had a game room, and so I just sort of organized everybody, and we used to use sort of fake microphones and perform, and charged a quarter for anybody in the neighborhood, usually parents and siblings, who would wanted to come and listen to us.
So I'm trying to figure out, what does the Providence Drive 5 have to do with your being the president of Gwynedd Mercy University?
Well, I never thought about it, but I think the organizing and the leading and kind of laying out a plan on what we wanted to do certainly is, I can draw the line to what I do now as president.
Just wanted to make sure I understood, Jeffrey.
Deanne, tell us a little bit about mom and dad. What did they do?
So my mother did not go to college, but she worked much of my childhood and ended up being appointed as the borough manager of Plum Borough, where I grew up. My dad did go to college, was the only one in his family, and my parents had that plan from the very beginning, and he worked at Carnegie Mellon University. His entire career ended up being the controller.
There seems to be a lot of respect going on in the family. Tell us about that and its influence on you.
No question. They actually, I think, taught me a lot of respect, and they taught me that, I could do anything, and that education was always a big focus. It was never a question about whether I would go to college.
What's this do anything have to do with your being? How's that affecting your being the president of Gwynedd Mercy University? This fact that you think you can do anything.
Well, it's not something I thought I would end up doing, but they gave me the confidence, the security to know that I could. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do it.
Just wanted to make sure I understood. Drew?
Dan, I was just curious, who got you into music at a young age?
That would be my mother. She was quite a talented singer, and so was her entire side of the family.
And what do you remember about that? Did you guys sing together? Or?
We did. We sang in church a lot, but we also, when we would go to her relative's house, we would stand around the piano and we sang gospel music.
And we learned you were in the band and the chorus. When you were performing, you had your own singing group. Did your mom and dad come watch?
They did. They never missed any performance that I was ever in.
And were they proud of what you were doing?
They were very proud.
And how does them being proud of you affect how you lead today?
I think it's important, and I try to impart and communicate often about how valuable the work is that people are doing at my university, and that I am proud of them, and especially the students and the efforts that they're making and what they have to do to get to the university and to complete.
David?
Dan, you mentioned you had 2 children. What did you want to do with them?
Very similar. I mean, I had great role models in my parents, so I wanted to make sure that they, too, felt like they could do whatever they wanted. I certainly emphasized education throughout their childhood and independence for both of them, and confidence that they could do whatever they wanted.
And what are they doing today?
My son was trained as an opera singer. He's the oldest, and he's now an attorney. And my daughter is a college graduate living in Chicago doing improv comedy.
Deanne, how young were you when you realized that a life of service was your calling? Where did you get that impression to begin?
You know, it's really all I do remember. I don't remember not thinking that a life of service would fit for my calling. So I remember it as a child, and everything I've ever done. Education, I have a degree in teaching, and then moved to an attorney, and now serving at a university that certainly a hallmark is service. So it's really all I do remember.
Deanne, when you were a student in school, your teachers put you in charge of the spelling test. Tell me why that happened.
In 6th grade, my teacher had me, on occasion, give the spelling test to the other students. I'm not sure why he did it, but I had mastered spelling pretty well.
And he trusted you and thought you could be left in charge, I guess, right?
I think he did, yes.
In the green room, you mentioned that you grew up in the church. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I was raised at the same church my whole life, a Presbyterian church outside of Pittsburgh, and we went every Sunday. It was a big part of our life. I went to youth group on Wednesdays and summer camp in the summer for 5 years.
And what impact did that have on you that you carry with you today?
I think it's part of the service and making sure that and noticing folks who don't have the advantages that I had in life and paying attention to that.
I think it's so fascinating that if you go back, you were in front of the room a lot at the school, at singing. And how does education put your students in front of the room and help them give a voice like the people gave you a voice when you were a kid?
Without question, I have seen in my 21 years in higher ed the transformative power of an education. To me, it's the answer to many of the ills in the world today. So that, it's my mission in life to give voice to folks who might not otherwise have it through education.
What's your mission?
To give voice to folks who might not otherwise have it through education.
Where's that coming from in your childhood?
Again, my parents did emphasize that education, and my parents made a decision at 18 and 19 when they got married that my dad was going to go to college because they knew the power that had.
So your mom, not only are you proud, but you've also witnessed sacrifice.
Yes.
How's sacrifice feeding into your being the president of Gwynedd Mercy University?
I think any leader, has to step back and not always be the center and sacrifice and let others come to the forefront. I think, that's something that I would maybe draw the line to sacrifice.
Tell me more about that. What are you talking about?
I have leadership team and I have others, and I want everyone to, kind of be on the train with me. And so to be a leader, people need to follow and want to follow. So they have to be given the opportunity to succeed.
Deanne, what are your son and daughter's names?
My son is Michael. My daughter is Nia.
They sound so interesting and accomplished. How do you compare your role as the president of the university and being a mom?
Well, that's a good question. Some of the same traits, no question. Again, about empowering other people to be successful. I certainly think that's. I've tried to do that with my children, and indeed, they are interesting and successful people.
Deanne, were you reluctant to be out in front in the singing group and in the classroom? Were you chosen to be, or reluctant to be, or where were you? Did you do it yourself, or did others put you there?
I think some of both. I mean, the Providence Drive 5 situation was my doing, but after that, I think I was actually not so eager to volunteer.
It seems like you want to put other people first and make them shine more than have the light shine on you.
Yeah, I think that's an important trait for any leader, because if you're by yourself in the front leading and no one's following you, you're not going to get too far.
Yeah, I'm curious, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and where you're working today, Gwynedd Valley, are very different. I'm just curious what you bring to Gwynedd from Pittsburgh.
So it's funny, my husband likes to say Deanne lived in one zip code her whole life until she moved here, and that is accurate. So I think I like to think of Pittsburgh as a big, small town, has a little bit of a Midwestern feel, and it is really about the people and the relationships, and so I think I bring that.
Deanne, what are you most proud of, and what lights your fire?
personally, I'm most proud of my children, without question. What lights my fire is what I'm doing in leading the institution. Like I said, when I hear the stories of where the students have come from and what the university and the Mercy focus of the university has done for them and what they're able to accomplish, that absolutely is a passion.
You're proud of your kids because of what they've accomplished?
No, because they're good people.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
What's the website address of Gwynedd Mercy University?
gmercyu.edu.
Let me have that one more time, please.
gmercyu.edu.
We've been speaking with Deanne D'Amelio, president of Gwynedd Mercy University, here on Executive Leaders Radio. We'll be back in a moment, right after this business spotlight. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on this show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Lisa Robinson, founder and CEO of My Independence at Home. Lisa, what is My Independence at Home?
My Independence at Home is a home care agency. We provide care for the elderly and adults with physical and developmental disabilities.
How large or how small is this organization?
120 consumers, 225 to 50 employees.
250 employees. How'd you get a job with this company?
I founded it at the age of 45.
You founded it at the age of 45. A black woman started a business, 250 people, and you started it at the age of 45. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Biloxi, Mississippi. How many brothers and sisters?
I have 3 younger sisters.
3 younger sisters. How many different schools did you go to prior to graduating high school?
Approximately between 8 and 10.
8 and 10 schools. Okay, Jeffrey?
Lisa, we were talking in the green room earlier that you grew up with some difficult circumstances.
Yeah, so when I lived in Connecticut, I was the only black child at that school, and the parents of the children at the school had directed their children to get out of the pool during swim class when I did. And one particular day, they did get out of the pool, and when I got out of the pool after the class, they had stolen my clothes, so I had to walk through the high school wet, no shoes, no towel, and call my mother for help.
Drew?
Well, first, how did that make you feel?
It was incredibly hurtful, embarrassing, distressing, and scary.
And we know your mom kind of came to your side, but wasn't there somebody in the school that also stood by you?
Yes, I had one close friend, Matthew. He was a paraplegic, and he was in a wheelchair. He was really my only friend.
And what did Matthew teach you about life?
He taught me that you can't treat people differently just because they look different or are a different race or have a disability.
Wow. And you were the oldest of 4, so what was your role with your younger sisters?
Really a mother-type role. We have a huge gap in our ages, so I was really more of a mother to them.
And what's the one thing you hope you taught them?
I hope I taught them tenacity and stick-to-itness.
Mm-hmm. Drew,
I think you did.
Yeah, David?
Going back to the story about the pool,
yes.
and other examples that you shared with us, what was going on for you in terms of expressing what was in your head?
Well, it was, like I said, it was very painful, but I think I got my retribution the last day of school at that school, and that I'm not proud of it, but I kicked one of the girls that were very, very mean to me. I kicked her in the back of her leg when we got off the bus.
But did you have a voice?
Not really. I really don't think I did. I was young, so I just kind of rolled with the punches.
Well, but that wasn't because you were young. You just didn't. Well, you were being discriminated against. How could you? It wasn't because you were young. It was just because you were being discriminated against.
Exactly.
Yes? Weren't you the only black child in that school?
I was.
Peter?
So, Lisa, what led you to begin caring for others?
I had a stroke 18 years ago, and I had to learn how to walk and speak again. I had physical speech.
Wait. What happened 18 years ago?
I had a stroke 18 years ago.
You had a stroke, yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, keep going.
And I had to learn how to walk and speak again, so I had occupational, physical, and speech therapy. So that kind of led me to want to care for people because I knew the effect that it had on my recovery, and also caring for my mother when she had breast cancer.
And how about this young man that came to your side, the paraplegic? Did that have any effect on your business career?
Looking back now, I think it's pretty amazing that what I'm doing right now, that the fact that the one person that stood by my side was a disabled young white man.
Yeah, and what's that have to do with today?
These are the people that I'm caring for, people with disabilities.
So you're telling me the fact that you had a stroke and were rather disabled, you understood the market demand for services like yours.
Not only the market demand, but helping people that are often disenfranchised and looked over. So I target people who most likely would not receive the type of care and respect that I provide.
Oh, you know about being disenfranchised because of this thing that happened in that pool, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew?
Lisa, how young were you when you started making money?
I was 12. I started making candles and selling them.
And who helped you with that?
My father.
Your father. And I don't know if you've said it all on the air yet, but what did your father do? Was he an entrepreneur?
My father was in the Air Force and then ended up being an entrepreneur, yes.
So tell me how he helped you. How did he support you?
So he helped me with the candle business because we went to a store, we bought bottles, and then he started to teach me about profit margin, and so that is how I started.
Shannon?
Lisa, in the green room, when you talked about the kids you went to grade school with, it's clear there's no animosity towards them. In fact, you actually said they were just kids and didn't know what they were doing. When did you realize that?
When I got a little older, I would say high school, when I looked back on it, because it was something that really has stayed with me my entire life. So I know now, and I knew then, that it wasn't the children's fault, it was the parents, because that type of behavior is taught.
And what does that have to do with you running My Independence at home?
Making sure that I treat everyone respectfully, and with respect to my employees, making sure that they feel appreciated. So I think that has been the impact.
Christine?
Lisa, most people think that when you're the only black person in a school that everybody knows who you are and notices you, but in fact it's really the opposite. They don't know you at all, do they?
No, I almost felt invisible at some point, walking through a school or going to class and people don't talk to you, and there were no black teachers. There was just nobody. It was just me. So, yes, absolutely. I almost felt invisible.
And when you were a patient after your stroke, was that a similar feeling where it was hard to be seen and noticed?
Yeah. Now that you say that, yes.
So what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to help people that you care for? You use the word disenfranchised, to feel seen and noticed and important.
I make sure that when they have a situation that they need help, that I'm there personally. I have purchased groceries, furniture, paid for extermination, been at hospital beds, funerals, all of that, just to make sure that they understand that someone is out there that actually cares for them.
I think the title of the name of your company is so powerful, My Independence at Home. How does independence help people be seen and acknowledged in the world? How does that serve that?
Well, being independent allows them to have control over their lives and things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and allow them to remain prideful in every walk of their life.
Prideful?
Prideful.
What's
yes.
that mean?
So a lot of people that we care for are often reluctant to accept the help because of that pride, and I'm able to explain to them, usually because of my circumstances and what I went through with my stroke, that it's okay to get the help.
Of those 120 people you serve, how many of them do you know personally?
All of them.
How do you get to know them?
Wait a minute. This is a business. What do you mean you know them all personally? Why are you smiling when you say that?
Because I love almost everybody. I love all of the people that I care for, and they mean a lot to me. They could choose another agency, and the fact that they trust me and my team to provide this care, I know all of them, and a lot of them have my cell phone, and they will call me.
Lisa, we often give what we don't get as kids, and I get the feeling, maybe I'm not correct, but that you're grateful for the way you were treated because it informs the way you treat others today. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I'm grateful for those kids treating me the way that they did, because it shaped who I am right now, and it's allowed me to teach my daughter the proper way to treat people. So even though it was a tragedy, it was a good thing. And I wouldn't have it any other way. David?
How do you screen for your employees to have the same characteristics and mindset as you?
So they have to have the same compassion and commitment to this community. So I don't hire everybody. I'm very picky, because these individuals trust me to put strangers in their home. So I have to be very, very careful.
Jeffrey?
Lisa, 120 people, clients, as you referred to them, and 250 employees.
Yes.
When you walk into work every day, you've created an incredible company. How does it make you feel?
Sometimes I have to pinch myself because it's kind of surreal. One of my team members said, "Lisa, do you ever look in the mirror and really realize the lives you're impacting every day?" And I don't, because it's not a job, it's a passion, and I absolutely love everything that I do.
What's the website address for My Independence at Home?
MYIAH.org.
We've been speaking with Lisa Robinson, founder and CEO of My Independence at Home, here on Executive Leaders Radio. We'll be back in a moment. Right after this break, don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back right after this break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce John Jacobs, Chairman and CEO of Harmony Biosciences. John, what is Harmony Biosciences? What are you guys doing?
Harmony is a pharmaceutical company that focuses on developing medicines for rare CNS disorders.
How large or how small is the organization?
We have 150 employees. We've been 2 years in operation now.
Alrighty, where are you from originally?
Long Island, New York.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have one younger brother.
Jeffrey?
So, John, what was going on with you ages 8 to 14 at home and with your family?
Thank you, Jeff. When I was 9, my parents got divorced. It was a relatively amicable divorce. And they got along well overall, but a bad fit for each other, so they split. And at that time, Mom decided to take us on a bit of an adventure and moved us down to the island of Barbados.
Interesting.
Keep
what happened
going.
there?
Yeah.
Well, Barbados was a unique experience. Growing up in a mostly white suburb, middle-class neighborhood in New York, I hadn't really experienced any other cultures. And I thought we had it tough after the divorce, that economics got tough in the family. But in Barbados, I was exposed to some remarkable events that helped to shape the mind of me as a young 10-year-old
Like
child.
what?
Like what? Yeah.
I was exposed to, first of all, extreme poverty. And it was coupled with remarkable joy, which really struck me. And our family became friends with a woman named Beatrice. Long story short, she had us to dinner at her home. And I'd never seen a house like this in my life. It was a 12 by 12 wooden shack with a corrugated metal roof and no running water. And it was remarkable to me that she didn't have all the things we had, a pool or a house with the televisions everywhere and all these things. Yet she was one of the most happy, humble, joyous people I ever met in my entire life. And the reason why was family, her children, and she was just so grateful to be alive and enjoyed her friends and her kids so much. And it was an early lesson for me on what's really important. And I think that humility and that gratefulness are the foundations of great leadership. I didn't know it at the time, but...
John, we learned in the green room you were quite the hustler at a young age and started kind of earning money at as a young age. What were you doing?
Boy, oh boy, anything I could that was legal and ethical to make a dollar. So I raked lawns, I shoveled driveways. The moment it snowed, I thought cash. I was up the first, the minute daylight hit, I got the shovel out of the garage and knocked door to door.
Why was it important to you to work hard like that?
It was important because Mom didn't have a college education, and after the divorce, Dad married into a large family, and economics got really tight, and my brother and I didn't have too many clothes, and I got teased in school for having holes in my pants a couple of times, and that motivated me to put money in the bank. I was actually making a couple $100 a week in the 80s as a 13-year-old and buying clothes for my brother and I.
I love how you remember that. What did that experience teach you about being a leader today?
It taught me about taking charge of the situation and not sitting back, and that when you see something you feel you can make better, to have the courage to move forward and just go for it. And it won't always work your way, but take the chance
John,
and do it.
Where did you get the courage to do what you're doing now?
Tell you, where I got the courage, there was one moment in my life that gave me endless courage. It'll never go away, and that was in college. I was a lacrosse player. I took a hard hit during a game, and at the time I didn't know my spleen was ruptured, and I was bleeding to death. And I passed out in the locker room, and they called the ambulance, and I was in and out of consciousness. The last moment I remember was looking up at the mirrored lights in the ceiling of the hospital and seeing my own reflection on a stretcher. I woke up a week later in intensive care. I had a near-death experience and was a miracle survivor. My family was there, the lacrosse team was there, the nursing staff were there to meet me. And that experience taught me that the only thing I thought about through that journey, and it was a journey at that time, was the relationships in my life. The things I did that I should have done, and the opportunities to do things that I didn't do. A hug to a friend, love and caring for others, and putting other people before yourselves. That's all that mattered when I was in that moment. Nothing, no titles, no material items, nothing else matters more than that. And that was such a great lesson at 20 years old to learn.
That's a significant loss of control. Tell me about how that translates to what you're doing today with CNS.
It's a great question, David. Look, I do believe that we can, with all of our efforts, shape energy and the environment around us by how we treat others and how we carry ourselves with dignity and respect for everybody we work with. And CNS and medicine is important to me because we're helping patients who don't have hope by bringing new medicines forward, and that's what we do at Harmony. But as well as helping patients, which is our top priority, we also want to give back to our local community and our employees. And I want to leave a legacy, and so does our leadership team, that we touch people's lives in an important way, whether it's holding the door for someone in the morning to walk into the building, or bringing a patient a new medicine, or having our employees go home at night feeling cared about and protected and well rewarded for their efforts.
John, in the green room, you mentioned that while you were in the ICU, you kept thinking about how all you wanted was a best friend to raise a boy and a girl.
Absolutely, and it was, I'm not sure if I was conscious or not at the time, but what I knew and what I thought and felt at that moment and prayed for and wished for was to have my best friend that was my wife and have a son and a daughter. The week I got home, almost 30 years ago from that event, I met Paulette, my best friend and partner for life, who I love more than my own life. And we have a son and a daughter together. So I'm already a rich person because everything that really matters through that lesson I already have.
John, I work for you, and I know that you create a psychologically and emotionally safe space for all of us at Harmony, and we're grateful for that. Take us back to when that started for you and creating safe and emotional places for other people.
Thank you, Kate. It really started back in school and moving to a couple of different schools through that environment and just seeing bullies, kids picking on other kids. It really bothered me a lot. Our parents raised us to treat everybody well. And I had the courage to step up and stand up to those bullies to help those kids. And that was the beginning of the journey, Kate. But right away, when I saw something wrong, I wanted to fix it.
So, saw something wrong. You talk about these incidents of being at dinner at a woman's house in Barbados, noticing bullying. These are things that most kids don't pay attention to. So where did you get this propensity to see things at a very young age? And how does it help you in what you see in your work today?
I think I got a lot of that from my mom, from both parents, but from my mom.
What did your mom do?
My mom's an artist and a musician, and is a very sensitive person and connects well with other people and has a very spiritual sense to her that's contagious.
How do you bring that in yourself to work every day?
At all moments, no matter what meeting I'm in, no matter who I'm interacting with, I'm always thinking about how that other person is feeling. And we may want to achieve something, as an example, in a meeting. We could win an outcome, but have people leave feeling less about themselves, and I worry about that.
So you know what it feels like to be the patient.
Yes.
And from your own experience, so how do you help your patients with their drugs and helping see what they need? What do you connect there in the work that you do?
In everything we do, we put patients first, and it starts with listening. From the first week we founded the company, we were sitting here in Philadelphia in a room with 12 patients suffering from narcolepsy, which is what our drug will help to treat. And we just listened to their stories to try to understand how they feel so we could help make it better.
John, what's in a name? What's Harmony mean to you?
What it means to me is that we're working in harmony with every core element of the company that's important. Our employees, our local community, each other, and how we treat each other every day in the company, and how we treat people externally, first and foremost with the patients at the heart of everything we do. And it says that right in our lobby, and we mean it. It's easy to say it, but we walk the walk.
John, so much of your journey is about learning how to take charge. How young were you when you first took charge?
Probably 6 years old.
Who taught you? How'd you figure it out?
I just always had a drive to be the leader.
What happened when you were 6 that you're referring to?
We were actually flipping baseball cards against the back wall.
Who's we?
My buddies and I in 6th grade on recess.
And how did you take charge of that?
I didn't think the process was fair, and I saw someone cheat, so I picked up all the cards, gave it back to everyone from the beginning, and reset the rules.
And are you still doing that today?
I am. Yeah.
How do you do that today?
In every way, shape, and form, I try to do the right thing. One quick example, I was in Home Depot, bought a bunch of things. They forgot to charge me for one item. I was in the parking lot with my son, John. I noticed. He said, "Dad, you got it for free." I said, "No, we didn't. Your name is a brand, and what you're worth comes with your dignity and how you handle yourself." We went back in and paid for it to teach John the lesson that nothing's for free, and you don't sacrifice your name for something like that.
Stand for? What does CNS stand for?
Central Nervous System.
And what happens if the central nervous system isn't working?
Oh, boy.
So the body doesn't function. So
the body doesn't function.
So having the heartbeat and the central nervous system within your company in harmony is everything to the things you do. Correct?
Yeah, the central nervous system is the central control for everything. And so it keeps the body running safely and correctly and appropriately. And that's the same way we see our culture, is always keeping it humming.
John, what's the website address for Harmony Biosciences?
It is that Harmony, as you spell the normal word harmony, followed by bio. Sciences with an S at the end.com.
We'll be between with John Jacobs, Chairman and CEO of Harmony Biosciences. We'll be back in a moment right after this break. Want to help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Mo Rushdy, managing partner of RiverWards Group. Mo, what is RiverWards Group? What are you guys doing?
We are residential developers that do about 100 to 150 homes a year, valued at about $30 million worth of real estate a year.
And what's special about the folks that are moving into these homes?
They're mostly first-time home buyers.
They're first-time home buyers. Okie dokie. So we know you have a proclivity for helping people get their first home, that safety, that security. Where are you from originally?
Cairo, Egypt.
And you also came from another country as well. Where was that?
I've lived most of my life in Kuwait. Shortly after I was born, we've moved there.
Kuwait and Egypt. Okay. How young were you when you came to the United States?
I was 24.
And I understand there was some sort of an invasion going on in Kuwait. What was that all about? How'd that affect you?
That happened in 1990. I was 10 at the time, and there was an invasion that happened. Luckily, I was with my family.
What happened to your dad who was still there?
I'm sorry?
What happened to your dad who was still there?
He stayed there for a couple months after the invasion started, and he was trying to find a way out, and he managed to do that about 2 months to 3 months after the invasion.
Didn't he have some sort of a heart attack or something?
Absolutely. When he came back to Egypt from the invasion, he shortly after suffered a severe
What was that effect? What was the effect of your dad's heart attack on you?
Well, he was pretty young. He was always, to me, a pretty healthy guy, and this was a major transformation for me as a 10-year-old.
Why would it be a major transformation for you?
Well, it really shaped my personality into being much of a warrior when it comes to the people that are around me.
So you didn't feel you didn't feel you had a loss of safety, basically.
Absolutely.
Isn't that what you provide for other people, helping them with their first-time homes?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Let's see, Christine.
Yeah, you used the words, I mean, your dad was pretty much stuck in Kuwait while the invasion was happening, that he had to find his way out. And so how do you help first-time homeowners find their way out to safety and to their home? How do you do that?
Well, many the first-time homeowners are coming from rentals where they don't believe that they are able to purchase a home. So I personally sit with every single buyer or potential buyer and gives them that comfort, that safety, that what they can and what they cannot do. I handle their worries before they even start thinking about it.
That's perfect, Drew.
Mo, I'm just curious. It sounds like a fairly stressful time when you were growing up, but what did you do for fun?
I played lots of soccer.
And what was your position on the soccer field?
I was a forward or an attacker.
And why? What was your role on the team?
Finishing it off with a goal.
So you were the finisher,
right?
And what did that experience, being the finisher on the soccer field, teach you about running a business?
Well, basically that you can run a business, but every business is results-oriented. At the end of the day, you need someone to finish off, whether it's buying land, whether it's delivering a nice home, whether it's actually writing an agreement of sale for a client.
Perfect. Jeffrey?
Mo, tell us a little bit about your mom.
Mom is a tough woman. She raised us to really care much about education. She really was the person that put a lot of principles in us when it comes to caring about education, future, worrying about your own kids.
When you were a kid, did you have to study when you were a kid?
Oh,
tell us about what your mother did to you regarding studying.
My mom ran the house like an army. Came back from school, we took a nap, we had lunch, and it was, or had dinner, and it was 6 hours worth of studying every single day.
Which country was this in? What country was this?
That was in Kuwait.
How old were you?
I was all the way starting the age of 7 or 8.
How do you think that 6
hours? What do you take to work every day that you learn from your mother?
That's it.
It's really not to give up, to really have the goal in front of you and keep at it. I do not think of the obstructions. I've always look and see a way and a path to just reach my goal.
Has your mom seen the business you've built these days?
Absolutely.
How does she feel about it?
She feels very proud, and I am very proud that she feels proud.
David?
Tell us about your dad's role growing up.
Dad was the 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. kind of working guy, so he worked very hard. He was an engineer himself. He did a lot of, he was a tough guy on the field, but he was also that kind of guy that actually people or his employees were able to sit with him and discuss with them their difficulties, their struggles, their personal struggles. And he was the shoulder, the warm shoulder that we actually came to at the end of the night and spoke to him about our day and what was going on, and he gave us the comfort.
No surprise that you just described that characteristic yourself. What else do you bring that your dad imparted on you?
Well, he's a very tough guy when it comes to business, to his business. I am very I take things, I divide everything into tasks, and these tasks have to be done with a specific time, with a specific accuracy. I worry if it's not done. So I'm on top of everything at every point. I don't let things slip, and that was the way he was.
Matthew?
Samo, tell us, those of us who grew up in America, what we don't understand, what we need to know to understand growing up in Kuwait.
Well, we did not own a camel, that's for sure. So they had cars, they have buildings, TVs. We watched all the HBO shows. So it's just it's a great place to live in. It's unfortunate what happened back in the early 90s, but all in all, it's a great place to live in. I would say that too about Egypt.
And it's actually interesting to me because you spent most of your time in Kuwait, but you identify yourself when asked as Egyptian. So tell me what being Egyptian means to you.
Absolutely. So I always say I'm Egyptian to the core. Right now I'm an Egyptian American, but my dad left Egypt back in after the 6 Day War and in the mid 70s and migrated to Kuwait for better business opportunities, just because Egypt was economically drained, but we were in Egypt 3 to 5 months a year. So Kuwait has been great to us as a family, but we still identify as being Egyptians.
Peter?
Getting back to that connection you have between you and your clients, what are you doing for them that maybe they aren't doing for themselves? How are you helping them?
Clients, when you're buying a home, clients typically are very, very happy. They overlook a lot of the stuff that they should actually be looking at when it comes to buying a home. And I say this in the sense that, again, it comes back to the point about worrying. That I set the right expectations with buyers. I meet with every buyer to set these expectations.
Shannon?
In the green room, you mentioned at a young age you became a worrier, and now you're working with first-time home buyers. The process of buying a home tends to be a little stressful. So when your clients are worrying about things, how do you ease their mind?
Well, I do the worrying for them. So, like I was saying, it's a lot of times we go through, I point out the stuff that they should worry about and provide the solution to it and how to work their way through it. The last thing we want or I want as a developer is having people feeling they've made the wrong decision buying a house, or feel that their expectations are not met after they close on the house. So it's very important for me to just point out all the ups and downs in the process and just go through it in detail.
Jeffrey?
Oh, you mentioned you have twins?
I do.
What have you learned from your children?
Oh, my twins, they have a great story. They were born each about a pound each, so they're very premature. They were born 27 weeks. I had my wedding ring go through all the way through the thighs, one of the kids' thighs, so they were very, very petite, and they stayed in the hospital for 3 months. And just about who I am as a warrior, I was, they taught me a lot. It was, a roller coaster ride, one day up.
What did your kids teach you about running a business?
It's not to lose hope. Never lose hope. From day one, we thought they're gone, and with every day and with us staying on top of it, we knew that there's always hope.
How old are they now?
They're 10.
How are they doing?
They're doing absolutely great.
Mo, you talked about being an Egyptian versus living in Kuwait, and so I hear the word roots in that your roots were very important. How is the first house that someone has, how does that help them lay down roots? Is there a connection there between that?
Absolutely. It's a feeling that you cannot teach. It's I fly to Egypt all the time. I go there twice a year. The second I land, there's this connection. Home. It's home.
And home gets you through those difficult times.
Absolutely,
doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, what's the website address of this organization known as RiverWards Group?
RiverWardsGroup.com.
RiverWardsGroup.com. And I guess the good thing about running your own business is you get to go in at 9, you get to leave at 5, you get to work limited hours.
Oh, no.
What time do you...
we do not stop.
I didn't think so. We've been speaking with Mo Rushdy, managing partner of RiverWards Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. Jeffrey, can you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of speaking with today?
What a great show today, Herb. We have Deanne D'Amelio, President, Gwynedd Mercy University; Lisa Robinson, CEO and founder of My Independence at Home; John Jacobs, Chairman and CEO, Harmony Biosciences; and just now, Mo Rushdy, Managing Partner, RiverWards Group.
Excellent. I would like to thank my co-hosts, including Mr. Jeff Mack, Newmark Knight Frank, Peter Snelling, Merrill Lynch, Drew Hanlon, Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, David DeStefano, Exude, Christine Miles, Equipped, and Shannon Lane, Mark Knight Frank for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. Matthew, what is the website address of this law firm that we're hosting the show in today? And the website address, please.
Obermayer.com.
And thank you for joining us today. We appreciate our listening audience. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back next week. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.